Hey, everybody, welcome back to another quick episode of Lead Ministry Live and the Lead Volunteers Podcast. My name is Josh Denhardt. Super excited that you're here. Today's going to be a fun one, and today has an extra bonus surprise. So I'm not kidding when I say make sure, especially if you're on the live, don't ditch out early. Good things come to those who wait. Well, again, Josh Denhardt, the Lead Ministry Live. So our purpose of doing these things, right? Number one is to help you, the ministry leader, get organized. Number two, to help you, the ministry leader, lead with confidence. And number three, all of those things with the great intention of helping you not to burn out. That's our goal. That's why we do these crazy things. And since this is kind of the Lead Volunteers podcast, we're talking today about what it might look like for you, the ministry leader, to take someone with you to a national conference. And so today we have our good friend, Michaela White. Hello, Miss Michaela. How are you?
Hey Josh, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. I'm super excited. So we're talking today about why someone would bring a volunteer to a national conference. I did this. I chose key people, key volunteers to take with me to a national conference, and it produced amazing, wonderful fruit. So we're going to talk about that today. But before we do, why don't you jump in and tell us just a little bit about yourself? Can you do that?
Absolutely. Well, it's absolutely a delight to get to be here today with you and your friends, Josh. I know we have a lot of mutual friends that we get to serve in the
Yes, we
children's
do.
ministry community. But if we haven't had the opportunity to meet each other yet, my name is Michaela. I am born and raised in the Chicago area. So I apologize ahead of time for my accent. I hear that I
Yeah.
have one.
I don't know. I wouldn't say that you do.
Oh, well, thank you. You're one
Yes.
of the first to actually say that, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
My husband and I are raising two little boys here in the Chicago area. I've got an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I have been serving as the executive director for the International Network of Children's Ministry for 4 years now. Have been with INCM for 7, and it's a delight to get to serve children's and ministry leaders around the world and come alongside them in their mission and make sure they have what they need to do that. So that's a little
Well,
bit.
that is fantastic, and we're grateful that you're here. And so today, because you're the director of the International Network of Children's Ministry, and you have a very big conference, we thought that you'd be a fantastic person to say, hey, why would we bring a volunteer to a national conference? What kind of benefits could we have? And so we're going to have fun today. Well, on kind of the lives and on the podcast, we kind of try to follow three big buckets. I always think about people's brains and how they process and gather information. So we kind of put it into some buckets that might be easier for people to comprehend. And so the first one is let's define it. The next one is let's develop it, go a little bit deeper, and then let's do this thing. And again, like I said earlier, if you are listening to this on Facebook Live, stick around to the end. You're gonna want to stay with us. Well, let's define this. Now, what is CPC? CPC is a tell us about that. And I'm gonna flip to a different screen as you explain, okay?
Yeah, for sure. Well, CPC stands for Children's Pastors Conference, and it's actually been around for over 40 years now. We're really grateful for this incredible space where children's ministry leaders, anyone who serves kids and
Yes.
families from around the world, can gather to get connected to what they need to champion the discipleship of kids and families. And so we gather every year in January in Orlando, Florida. And there's over 2,000 ministry leaders that you can walk the halls with, sit in breakouts with, and go to general sessions with. We have over 160 breakouts that we offer.
Yes.
And breakouts are like deep dive training sessions ranging in topics related to children's ministry and ministry leadership. So these are areas where when you're sensing places where you want to grow or you want to advance in, breakouts are a great way for you to get a concentration of training. at the event. And then general sessions, we create space that feels like a place where children's ministry leaders can go to church. So
Yes.
we prioritize opening the Word of God, worshiping the Lord together, and creating a space where we can hear from Him
Yes.
and be inspired by what He has to say to us. And then the Resource Center, which is one of my very favorite places at CPC, is like target for children's ministry leaders.
Yes.
You walk in and there's just aisles and aisles of providers of resources who have created things that solve problems, that help advance your mission, that expand your creativity and your ability to reach kids and families for Jesus, and just some of the best people in the world in that space for you to connect with and to learn from. So we have over 100 providers in that resource center, and it's an exciting place to be. You get so many ideas walking around
You
in
do,
there.
yeah. So CPC is a national level, it's one of the biggest that exists, conference for children's ministry leaders. And I have been an attender, oh my word, since 2006.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? So since 2006, I don't believe I've missed a single one. And
Yeah.
and so I was an attender, and really the funny story is I got a flyer in my mailbox, and of course, I was the new children's pastor, and so much of what was coming into my physical mailbox, I was just like, look, gone, and I was like, look, wait a minute, wait, what do we have here? And so, yeah, what is this? And so attended, and it's been a life changing thing. Now, in addition to being an attender, before too long, I ended up starting to do breakouts, ended up becoming a resource provider, doing some coaching with INCM. So those are all very fun things. So that is CPC. Now, if you're in the chat, if you're here, if you've attended CPC before, just put something in there that says, hey, I've been there, and give us your favorite piece to CPC. But yes, it is a place where you can find like-minded people. Now, another big thing is like why? Why would we? I mean, it's pretty clear why as a practitioner and as somebody who's in vocational ministry. Pretty straightforward as to why we would go to a national conference. That's very straightforward. But we're talking today about reasons why we would actually bring someone to be with us who is not paid. So these are the big 5 reasons I think that are good for anybody to go to a conference, but specifically why to bring volunteers. Okay, I got these 5 reasons, and we've talked about this. Invest. Can you talk to us about this one?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that we know our teams need from us is not just to feel like they have something to do in children's ministry, but that they are a vital part of the team, worthy of our investment, and to be really connected to each other and to you in a meaningful way. And so there's something about travel and participating in a common event or a common gathering that is like a microwave for team building.
Happens
You,
fast.
yeah, you learn a lot about your team when you travel together. You're able to have I find that you walk away with inside jokes and stories that you love to reflect back on of, hey, remember when that happened? And sharing meals together, that many meals together in such a
And
short
maybe
period of
and
time.
maybe even a hotel room, right?
Yeah, exactly. You are able to advance those relationships and deepen those relationships in a very unique and special way through
And very
traveling together.
fast. And very
Yes.
fast. You called it a microwave,
Hmm.
microwaving your relationships. For me, I
Hmm.
think about it like, okay, if you've ever sat around a campfire and everybody's just staring at the fire and you're kind of bonding, it's like
Yeah,
having a staff retreat or a volunteer retreat, and you have like 50 campfires. It just
absolutely.
it just makes it happen. And so I think an investment piece relationally. And everybody
Yes.
coming together is a really, really, really big thing. Well, another one is inspiration or inspire. Talk to us about that.
So, and this ties into investment really well, because one of the things that you experience at that event is consistent, fresh perspective, diving into ideas, discussing true things,
Hmm.
hard things, considering questions together. Especially, I would say, though, in the general sessions, when we are exploring the Word of God together and people are given an opportunity to worship without being called out of the
Hmm.
service, there's an openness that happens and a renewal that happens in our spirits. And so, being able to offer that to your team, but also to experience that together as a team,
Yes.
allows us to testify back and forth and pray together and encourage one another in a way that we typically don't have space for
Not
on
at
a
all.
weekly basis. So that inspiration could be the thing that your team is really needing after a year like this. But it also gives you an opportunity to go deeper together in
It
things that
does.
really matter.
And I think this idea of being inspired, and I can speak for myself. There were times that I would come to CPC and I would be like, okay, like, is it even worth it?
Mhm.
I've been in the grind of ministry. And, if you're not in full time vocational ministry, there are times, if you're not, and you ever end up becoming in full time vocational ministry, the number of things and the bizarre things that you're up against in dealing with, they could never find themselves on a job to do list. It's just bizarre sometimes, the challenging and hard things that you might find. Well, volunteers, they might be like, good gracious, like, is this worth my
Yeah,
time? Is it
yeah,
worth me being in this? And they can have a sense of renewal. They can have a sense of maybe even receive a calling. Here's a fun
yeah.
story that years ago we were at CPC in California, and I brought a team of people with me, and they handed me the special needs ministry at our church. It was in a very, very, very hard space. They handed it to me. I was reworking it for the previous 6 months, and we were doing a search to try to find someone. Lo and behold, a team member who was with us attended every single special needs breakout. We were walking to Denny's, of all places, and she burst into tears and broke down and said, I think it's me. And she was right under our nose the entire time. So she received her calling. And now we have, that church, I would say that it's one of the top 10 special needs programs possibly in the country. I mean, it's a dynamic special needs ministry. And so I think people can receive their calling, they can be renewed in their calling, and we can actually expose volunteers to, hey, this rabbit hole goes a whole lot deeper, friend.
That is 100% true. I think there's a perspective shift that happens about what they're actually a part of
Exactly.
when they're surrounded by leaders who are committed to the discipleship of kids and families like them, and that many, and from all over. And you get a sense of the move of God through his people when you're
Right.
in those spaces. And it is inspiring and deepens your connection to the mission.
And I think that a volunteer, they get to see beyond their
Yes,
local church,
that's right.
and they get to
That's
see beyond, like, hey, the four little walls and the carpet squares that I have. You know what I mean? And they get to
Yeah.
say, wow, this thing is way, way, way bigger. Well, that's super fun. Let's go to the next one, ideas. So we have so far invest, that's kind of relationship building. We have inspire, gaining a calling or renewing your calling. And now ideas. Help us with that one.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes we're just one question away from breakthrough on a
Wow.
barrier that we are maybe coming up against in our ministries, or something that we're feeling a burden to shift or change, or we can't quite overcome this. And so breakouts and even conversations in the resource center, or in a coaching appointment, or honestly in a hallway. at lunch, name the place. You're surrounded by ideas and people who can ask questions and offer insights that could lead to the thing your team needs to gain momentum or
Hmm.
expand their perspective or creativity and how they approach an issue you're encountering at home, or maybe even a dream you have at home. So that space is like an incubator
Right.
for and safe space to explore and consider what we might do to really push the mission forward and to do that as a team. And to go with your story about your teammate who realized after attending all of those breakouts, she went from a place of maybe not feeling like it was her or that she could even do it to being poured into with all of this
Hmm.
perspective and ideas and strategy to thinking, I may not know everything, but I am connected to what I need now to move this
That's
forward.
exactly
And
right.
I want to take responsibility for it. And so when they have that empowerment of information, their responsibility goes up.
Agreed. And I would say, in addition, I would say that how fun it is to take a team of volunteers and send them out, and they're like, "Hey, am I supposed to just attend that breakout session with you?" No. How about you choose one that's inspirational to you? You go do that, come back as the authority, and then you're bringing us ideas. And so, this idea of kind of, you know, I remember one time a key volunteer said, "Hey," I already knew we were going to do this, but she said, "Hey, would it be okay if we kind of divide and conquer and we don't have two people from our team in any one breakout?" And I was like, "Hey, that's a great idea." I mean,
Yeah.
that was what we were going to do anyway, but it was fun for her to kind of have ownership of that. So we did go divide, conquer, go to different breakouts, peruse the resource center, and then come back. And of course, you see this from time to time at CPC where you'll see these little huddles of people, and one person kind of has, in a sense, the floor or the mic, and they're sharing that which they've learned. There's a sense of ownership and gaining of ideas. And I like what you said, Michaela. You said we are but one idea from a breakthrough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's
One
a great
idea,
thing.
one question, one statement someone shares with us in that hallway conversation could be what you need.
Well, that
Yeah.
leads us to the fourth one, which is integrate. Now, I kind of think about this one as meeting like minded people outside of your church. This is the grand, big national watering hole for people who do what we do. And
Yes.
so you said it's one conversation in the hall. That's this. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. I, here's the thing that I think is really critical for leaders and for your team is to be around people who are different from them but committed to the same mission. And
Right.
that's because you get, again, a greater sense of what God is doing in his kingdom,
Hmm.
and it expands your ability to just see the work of God beyond like what's right here. And so meeting these people from around the world,
Hmm.
from different churches, different cultures, different denominations, your church might be a mobile setup. You might be meeting in a school. You can still learn from someone who is in an urban setting that has their own building, and vice
Right.
versa. And so I think we get the opportunity to get perspective of what's happening in the kingdom. We can learn a lot and make friends that we normally wouldn't have been in a position to make, and that's exciting for your team.
And
So
that's so funny. This idea of integrating with other ministries and other people. There are people that Sarah and I, my wife, we've called them our conference friends.
yeah.
And it's this kind of annual gathering, and maybe you're friends on Facebook with them. But this one set of people, bless her heart, we met them in like 2006, I think, in a hot tub of all places. And every year we remind each other, well, we did meet all you and your sidekick and me and Sarah. So you get to meet people and you're kind of a part of this little conference bubble that exists for this
Right.
short period of time. And
That's
I
right.
like the idea of learning from people who are outside of your denomination, who are outside of your local context, who have
Yes.
and you really can say, "Oh my word, I never would have thought how you have solved that problem." Or that
Yeah.
you're experiencing that problem. That's another thing I think it's important, Michaela, is that we can get myopically focused on the drama and trauma of what's happening locally in our church.
Very much so. Yep.
And you can also have this big expanse where you're like, you know what? It isn't that bad. Other people have it pretty challenging too. So that's a piece to this integration thing. Well, the last one of our five is incentive. What do you think about this one?
Well, your key team members, your key volunteers, when you invite them to attend a conference with you, that communicates a lot.
It
It
does.
communicates that you have seen them a certain way, that you believe enough in them to invest time, finances, all of that into their leadership. And so I guess in some ways you could see it as a reward, but I also think that it's an inspiring reward.
It
It,
is.
that's communicating to them really your belief in their leadership and their future in that ministry.
Yeah, I think it's like the biggest, most robust I see in you moment, right? And on a previous podcast, there's an author who I can't remember his name right now, but he has those four letters, I see in you. And so
Yes.
this is an I see in you like like dynamite moment to say, hey, can I go to lunch with you? I'd like to talk with you about what it would look like to have me fly you to Florida, stay at a nice hotel, all of your food will be paid for, or whatever it is. And they're like, they feel this sense of elevation, and they're like, wow, I'm actually a somebody to them. I'm a part of this big thing. And I actually leveraged that, Michaela. And as we were looking at people, I have this kind of ministry philosophy. I might throw it up here real quick. It's very, very, very simple, but it's the 12, the 3, and the 1. This is kind of the volunteer training framework. And I choose 12 people a year. And I then kind of dial in with 3, the Peter, James, and the John, as well as the John, the disciple whom Jesus loved or whatever. And so this is the model that I use. I mean, I take 12 people a year for coaching one-on-one, and they become some of my insiders. But as a piece, right, as a piece to me kind of selecting someone, I'm like, okay, so who in my 12 needs that extra bump?
Yeah.
The Bible says those who are faithful in little will be faithful in much. Who's ready? And then the conference was kind of that christening moment, both for me, okay, I'm committing big time to this person. So I think that that's a huge thing. Well, listen,
Yeah.
those of you, oh, yes, please go.
I just want to, I think, just like real talk right now, I know that for so many leaders, even getting budget to send themselves to a conference
Real talk.
is a battle. So I know in this conversation with us talking about bringing a team member, it's a challenge because how do I get budget to bring my team along when it was a battle to get my budget approved, or I haven't even got my budget approved. So I feel like we need to talk about that just a little bit because
Sure.
number one, and I know this sounds like a real like Jesus-y spiritual answer, but we've got to start here. And that is, we have to pray about this. We
Yeah,
have to pray that the Lord would make a way for us to get what we need. He knows what we need. And He is a good father.
amen.
And He delights to give His kids good gifts. And so if you come to Him as your daddy and throw before Him, Father, I need this, I want this, and above and beyond, I want to bring my team. Would you please make a way? Bringing that petition before Him, I believe that He will make a way, that He will answer.
I agree.
And it might not be in the way that we expect, but He will provide. He will provide what you need. There are so many options. I'm obviously 100% biased towards CPC because of what it's meant in my life
Sure.
and the community that we're part of. But there are so many amazing conferences that might be closer to you, might be in your budget in whatever way it needs to be. There might be, if you're not able to travel for whatever reason, there's online options that you can look into and create that space for your team. It's not the same as
Right.
traveling, but it's something, right? So I just want to expand our perspective to remember God is one that we can go to with these kinds of questions and these kinds of asks, and there are options. And
It,
so,
and I would
it,
say, yeah,
yeah,
don't write it off as, well, I guess that's only for the big church, or I guess, well, that'll never happen for me.
absolutely.
Don't go down that road.
Yeah. Or
It,
if you're bivocational, or if you're a completely volunteer children's ministry director, these are for you. I know I've
absolutely.
heard leaders say, well, I'm not on staff. That doesn't matter. My mom wasn't on staff. My mom was a volunteer children's ministry director. She did everything and full time that I know staff children's ministry leaders do.
Yes.
And she needed CPC. That would have made all of the difference for her.
Isn't that
So,
good?
yeah.
Well, let's do this real quick. We have these 5 things, and there are some people who are watching with us right now. And what I would ask is, if you're watching right now, which one of these 5, just put in there, whether it's incentive or inspire or ideas, integrate, or you view bringing a volunteer to a conference as a sense of incentive. Put into the chat. Now, there is a reason why I'm asking somebody to put something in the chat, because we actually have never done this before. We actually have a very, very, very special thing, and this is kind of a little giveaway. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, this is special.
On a Wednesday morning.
A present for a Wednesday morning. And so, somebody who is watching live with us right now, you're going to need to put into the chat that you're here, your first name, last name. I guess I'll obviously see that. But whoever is on the chat right now and they make some type of a comment that we know that you're here, we're going to, you, Miss Michaela, have provided us with an opportunity. Why don't you tell us what you've offered to do for the listeners today?
Well, we are so passionate about leaders bringing teammates to CPC that if you already have a ticket to Children's Pastors Conference, or maybe you get your ticket today, or what we want to do is give you a free team ticket. So, to give you the opportunity to bring a key volunteer with you to CPC. So if you're already registered for CPC, or if you're like, hey, I'm going to get my ticket today, we want to give you a code to bring a volunteer with you for free.
So fun. Right? I mean, come on, that's pretty special. So if you were out there, and it might be the type of thing where you can text me if we're friends, or you can put something into the chat, however it's going to work. But I'm very, very excited about this. And
I'm seeing comments on my phone, but
okay,
not.
I'm not seeing it on my thing. So for some reason, comments
Okay.
aren't coming through. So that is
Yeah.
good. Well, we'll be able to, and I can always come back in, right, and look at my. I'm very glad that you said that, um, because
Yeah.
I'm not seeing them on my feed here. So I think I have a setting wrong. Well, we'll get to that. So thank you, everybody out there who is commenting. I was like, how come no comments? And they're actually commenting.
Yes.
Well, this is great. Super, super grateful. Super grateful. Miss Michaela, this has been fun. CPC has been a huge piece to my existence. It's been something, and not only do I know deep down that I believe that it's good to bring a volunteer to a conference, but you believe that as well, so much so that you're willing to give an opportunity to make it just that much easier. So we'll pick somebody later today. Any closing words for us? I know you're in the throes of conference planning right now.
Yeah. I mean, we're we're thinking about you all. I mean, with CPC coming in a couple months, we're thinking about you all and what it looks like for you to be leading children's ministry now in this season at this point in our time and history and culture. And friends, I think that one of the things I want to encourage you in is 2020 and pushing through all of that. There was some big adrenaline pumping through our community to pivot and be creative, and the Holy Spirit gave us what we needed to be able to do what we needed to do in that season. But what we've seen here at INCM as we've connected with leaders is that 2021 is a unique kind of tired, and we're asking some hard questions in our minds maybe, and not even uttering them out loud to other leaders right now. In safe spaces, we're admitting that we're not sure how much we have left. In safe spaces, we are curious about if we're still made for this, if our church is going to survive, why our families aren't coming back. And so I just want to encourage you that no matter how you come in to a conference, whether it's CPC or another one, I want to encourage you to come in honestly and to be praying for God to open you up to what He wants to say to you about who you are in your leadership and your ministry. I think that these spaces are like oases on the journey. And we say at CPC, we invite you to come in close for a couple of days, not because we love being together, although we do, not because it's so fun, although it is, not because we're getting all of the training that we need, although that's important, but because we really believe that coming in for those couple of days gives us an opportunity to kind of put other things aside and really prioritize what it looks like to fix our eyes so that the rest of the race can be run in the way that it is to be run, so that we can hear from Him and we can be transformed for the journey. So we gather so we can go back stronger. And I want to encourage you, if you don't have the budget or you don't know how you're going to make it, pray and pray and pray and ask your Father for a way, and He will open those doors. I encourage you, my friends, you are worth taking time for something like a conference, and your team is worth you taking time for something like a conference.
Well, that was very inspirational. I feel all the feels right now, and I think that what you said is just completely true. An oasis. And when I think of an oasis, it's kind of a desert land, and then you have this refreshing glass of coconut water with lots and lots and lots of nutrition and lots of electrolytes to get you moving forward. So, such a good word. I wish that we had more time because you're just a fun person to talk to. I love this.
We'll do it again some other time.
Yes, we will. Well, thank you, gang, so much. This has been Lead Ministry Live. My name is Josh Denhardt, and also on the Lead Volunteers podcast. Because we did this live, we're going to go back and look at some of the comments, and we'll figure a way. And some of you, we may be reaching out pretty soon and giving you a promo code so that you could bring a team member to CPC this year. Well, thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys on the next one.